In this episode, we speak with David Bates, the co-founder and CEO of Linus Health, a digital health company focused on transforming brain health for people across the world. In 2019, David and his team of individuals with exceptional backgrounds in neuroscience, clinical care, artificial intelligence, and enterprise software created a digital platform that enables a future where people can live longer, happier, and healthier lives with better brain health. The platform delivers a proven means of enabling early detection, empowers providers with actionable clinical insights and recommendations, and supports individuals with personalized action plans. Before Linus Health, David founded Tamarisc Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm, as well as Bode, a tech-enabled hospitality company for group travel. I am your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
David, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
It's great to be here, RJ.
So, really interested in what the company does, how it's focused on brain health and an area that's particularly acute for most people when they think about potentially being afflicted with brain problems. And then secondly, you have an interesting background between investing, early stage investing, as well as entrepreneurship. Maybe to start, how did you first come up with the idea for Linus Health?
Sure. Started maybe around 2015. I was at the time investing in real estate technologies or technologies in the built environment. And a lot of those technologies used ambient sensing, so sensors in the building to basically measure occupants, either occupancy or consumer behavior, what is their sentiment. And that drove business decisions. And especially in retail, the technology is very advanced in how they assess customers in the store and their behaviors. And it dawned on me that there's got to be a higher and better use for this. And indeed, behavior is the primary output of the brain. And therefore, if you can deconstruct human behavior using these ambient sensors, you can trace it back to brain function and thereby understand when there's dysfunction. So that really gave me the genesis of the concept of Linus Health.
There's still a bit of in terms of my understanding, a disconnect between the two. So in terms of using ambient tools, ambient technology to then assess someone's brain health, how do you get from point A to point B?
Well, I think I learned quickly that the industry's not there yet. With Linus Health, we are using standards that medicine has adopted, has been using for decades, and then we apply process-based analysis to the behavior or analyzing the behavior of that patient carrying out a prescribed task. And so it's something that's known in medicine, and then we apply the analysis of the behavior on top of that, which is a concept I later found that came out of neuropsychology called the Boston Process Approach, developed by Edith Kaplan and Norman Gushman. And they were specialists in dementia care. And they said analyzing the patient's behavior while taking a test is as valuable or more valuable than the output of the test. And so that's what we do at Linus Health today. But of course, we are looking into the ambient stuff. So zooming back to your question, our behavior is the expression of activity in our brain. Everything we do is the expression of our brain. How do you know what something's wrong with the liver? Well, you're measuring the outputs, your enzymes, your prostate, PSA, all these things, they have outputs from them, but the brain's unique in that it's your behavior. And that behavior for specialists, they get a clinical impression of an individual because they've seen so many people with a certain condition. And
Hmm.
it gives them an impression, it's called a clinical impression, where they know with about 70 to 80% accuracy, this is what this person has. I
Hmm.
even once spoke to a gentleman in North Carolina who went to med school in the 60s. So he's been practicing medicine quite a long time. He said, when a patient walks in the door, I can look at their lower lip and tell whether or not they have Parkinson's. And it's his brain is just honed in on a certain expression of that dysfunction in the brain. And that's how he gets this clinical impression. So that's what we seek to do is use the sensors, whether it's in a device or eventually ambiently, even the camera, the microphone, to assess the human behavior and
Hmm.
then be able to tell using advanced algorithms, is this behavior normal or is there something in that behavior that's indicative of disease or disorder that is beginning to start or is already progressed.
Hmm. I guess maybe to further clarify my understanding, if I were to send, say, my parent to a physician and say to the physician, I'm a little bit concerned. I want to know if there is onset of Alzheimer's or dementia. Can you let me know? And this medical practitioner would then use Linus Health to help assess the individual by taking them through a series of tests. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so Linus Health today in the clinic, you would come in if you have a complaint, like you're worried about a loved one, a parent, they would just ask a medical assistant, can you give them a Linus Health test? Hopefully it becomes standard for anyone above a certain age. I think everyone should have it at every touch point. Wherever you get blood pressure taken, you should also have your brain assessed because brain health is the goal. But they would take a quick, 3 minute or less assessment and it would analyze them carrying out that task. And then it would provide the doctor, as soon as the doctor came in, they would have a deep understanding of what's going on with your loved one's brain health. And they would have step by step actions they could go through to really hone in on what is the source of this potential problem and work that up. If it's things like polypharma, maybe their medications are causing it. Maybe they're not sleeping well. Maybe they have some depression. So being able to work up those aspects, and then ultimately, is there a neurodegenerative condition here? And if so, what are the options? Lifestyle modification that's meaningful to them. If there's therapeutics that can help to get them access to those, and really just optimize their brain health trajectory with the goal of preserving their independence as long as possible, if not for the remainder of their life. Because recently it was reported at least half of dementias can be avoided if they are
Mm.
detected early enough and managed appropriately.
What are some preventative measures that one could take today? Say if like something showed up in a test, what would be the first thing? Is it stop drinking alcohol? Is it get more sleep?
That's among them. Sleep is incredibly important. It's personal. It matters, and that's why we also like to get lifestyle information and really understand the patient better, what matters to them. And so we have a great assessment called Epsom, where we enable the patient to describe in their own words why they want to be healthy, what they care about in their life. And then they can rank it and rate their confidence in their ability to do that. And then we tie that to their intervention plan so that it's meaningful, it's personal to the individual. And then we go through, as you said, how are they sleeping? Do they feel their life is meaningful? Purpose and meaning in life is one of the greatest things for brain health. You have a purpose in life. Socialization. Are you engaged in activities? Are you pushing the boundaries? Doing new things. That's engaging new neural pathways and keeping your brain plastic and healthy. Nutrition is huge. Are you eating the right things? Managing chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension is very important. There's a few others. Exercise is huge. Making
Mhm.
sure that you're getting adequate oxygen supply to the brain, just keeping everything functioning well. It's super important. And the sleep, you touched on sleep, but the brain is so amazing that, at night when we sleep and get the right kind of sleep, there's actually a process where kind of the blood drains a bit and CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, comes in and washes the brain. And then as you start to wake up, the blood comes back in. And it's kind of a cleansing of the brain while you sleep. And you really want that process to take place so you're getting the right kind of sleep. And things like alcohol can disrupt that sleep. So
Mhm.
it's just those different aspects that we've called pillars of brain health that you really want to take care of. And that really optimizes your health trajectory.
So it sounds like the value prop of Linus Health is both on the detection, but then also the almost prescribing of how one can improve their brain health.
That's correct. Some people are very motivated, self-motivated. And so even equipping folks with a personalized brain health action plan, it gives them agency. But not all of us are able to stick to, that lifestyle plan. And so recently we've brought in a capability to deliver a clinically valid telehealth program that really brings a health coach in to help you carry out that brain health action plan to live your best self and optimize your brain health trajectory. Mm-hmm. And we're assessing that so you can get the feedback of, what is stable, what are you improving on, where are some areas that maybe it's declining. And so we want to focus on those areas.
Can you reverse prior damage? Say, for example, I have a friend that drank a lot in college, maybe even into their 20s, mid 20s, late 20s.
A friend, right? No.
Yeah, a friend. Yeah. Can you reverse that and get back to like very healthy brain status?
So I'm not a medical doctor. I will speak for my co-founder, who's a neurologist. I think he would say you can reverse a lot of the brain is amazing. It's very plastic, especially if you reduce those kind of risky behaviors in your 20s and start to really focus on living a more healthy life and doing things in moderation. I definitely think the brain's resilience, it can restore damage incurred during that time. And, one of these concepts in brain health, it's either called cognitive reserve or executive reserve. It's a resilience of the brain and its capacity to incur insult and bounce back, just like resilience, but there's a resiliency in the brain. And that reserve can be built up, especially through our learning. It's tied to education. It's tied to complex tasks, managing people. You're building up reserve over time, and that reserve can compensate for a lot of damage. And so I heard one of the best things for cognitive reserve is Tai Chi. So that's a good thing to take up and to practice because you're engaging so many aspects of control, proprioception, thought. It's very good for cognitive reserve, which we all want to build up.
On the detection side, have you been able to test how accurate your solution is in detecting that there is potentially a problem with dementia?
Yeah, so we have thousands and thousands of assessments run, well over 160,000 assessments. And we have run multiple clinical trials, both at cross time points, so cross-sectionally, and we have several partnered with great studies like the Framingham Heart Study. It's been running since 1948 across generations, and so have several years across thousands of people where we're able to see how accurate and the predictive power of our assessments. And so I would tell you they're incredibly accurate. Mm-hmm. We can tell you not only that you have a problem, but also we can tell you, thanks to especially the Framingham Heart Study and the Rush African American Study, we can tell you that actually you're not going to have a problem for at least the next 5 years. So it goes both ways. And doctors love giving that news to people, especially to the so-called worried well, where people are concerned there's a problem, and to be able to give them an assessment and show scientifically, it's been empirically shown, you don't have a problem and you're at very low risk for developing a problem for at least 5 years.
And where is this available? Like, how many healthcare practices across the US have access to your solution?
So healthcare practices, really across the US, even in Hawaii. I'm not sure about Alaska. I'd love to get some assessments up there, but pretty much we're selling all across the country. Major academic medical center health systems are picking it up. And even we're talking to insurance plans, Medicare Advantage plans, wanting to get as many people access to an understanding of their brain health as possible. Our company mission is to help bring brain health into its rightful place in the global standard of care and to make it accessible to everyone. That's what drives us, and those are the activities we undertake to carry that mission out.
Mm-hmm. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about your background, because it seems like you entered kind of the business world from a mix of like maybe corporate work and as well as investment work. Can you take us back to the beginning of your journey?
Sure. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up there, and I went to Georgia Tech and I studied applied biology. So science is deep in my background. And since it was applied, it was also a bit of engineering. And then I went on to do some graduate degrees, ultimately getting a doctorate in chemical and materials engineering. So my background's heavily science and engineering, so applying the science to solve problems. And I was recruited into venture capital in 2009. I've been investing along, in biotech and both biologic compounds, drugs, diagnostic devices. And then I got into clean tech, that first boom, and then into real estate tech, as I mentioned before. So always investing along certain theses and really connecting those dots that gave me an understanding of what I needed to launch a company like Linus Health. Also been very entrepreneurial. My younger brother and I have been in business together for many years, a couple decades. So always having an entrepreneurial view on things. If we can't find it to invest in, we'll just start it. So that's a little bit of the journey.
What could you share about entrepreneurship in terms of the characteristics you would look for as an investor? And presumably there was a mix of like, oh, this is the product here or the solution, the science, the technology is so strong, we're going to invest behind it, balanced with, oh, this is a great entrepreneur or this is not such a talented entrepreneur, but the product's strong enough. How do you kind of view investing? Like, what lens do you put on?
It's all about the people.
Mm.
It just really is. Good ideas are a dime a dozen. There's a lot of them out there. It's who is going to carry it out and what kind of people are they? And that's what investing has taught me. Not everything that glitters is gold. You really got to understand the person, know what drives them, know how they're going to react to things. Are they open to feedback? Are they flexible? Do they listen? And are they learning? Do they have a high degree of fluid intelligence and complemented with the grit to see it through? Of course, the idea needs to make sense. There needs to be a market for it, and someone's willing to pay for it. And it's going to do good in the world. It's going to make money. But it does boil down to the entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. And do you think entrepreneurs are born or made?
I think they're born.
I'm curious, like now that you've backed other entrepreneurs, you're building your own company, what's the biggest challenge for you now in scaling the business?
Scaling Linus is, I think the biggest challenge is the speed of adoption, how long it takes in healthcare and health systems to, contract, to go through security, AIML, all the different agreements and the HIPAA and then the getting the docs on board, the training and the implementation, the rollout. Healthcare is very conservative, probably because it needs to be to some degree. I think it's more conservative than it should be. And, in a lot of people's minds, it's already working. If it's not broken, they don't want to fix it, or they're very busy. And they're very busy. And there are many who are open to innovation. They're very intelligent people. But that is one of the biggest hurdles. And, and for us, and I don't know what their daily life is, we're just one of a million concerns they have. But it's like, every day that people aren't being found is a lost day. 92% of MCI is undiagnosed. That means there's at least 12 million people in the United States right now that have mild cognitive impairment, the path to dementia, and they have no idea.
Right.
That troubles me because they're thinking about, oh, I'm working for the life. I want this future. I see my grandkids get married, my kids get married, whatever. And the reality is that they may not. And it doesn't have to be that way. At least half of them don't have to lose their person. So the quicker we can adopt, the better it is for many, many families in this country and throughout the world. So the answer to your question is it's the adoption. Speed of adoption and rollout is the biggest hindrance, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last two questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I've been asked this in a few interviews. I do consider Gerald Chan, who has brought me into venture capital, and he's also the chairman of Linus Health. He has had a huge impact on my life because he is also a scientist and engineer and a business person who's done incredibly well, but he has a heart for people and big heart for philanthropy. And I don't think for him it's as much about the money anymore as it is making a difference in the world, leaving the world a better place than he found it. And I think that has rubbed off on me and really pushing me to really dig in and work hard. I remember that in the early days. So he's had a big impact on me. And then the other person I think would be my dad, who really showed me grit and sacrifice. And so I think that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Excellent. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Sure. So I'm on a board of a foundation called TM City, and it is focused on brain health in the US and really enabling access to different avenues of care like music therapy, art therapy, environmental therapy. Even this awesome surf program for vets, yoga for people who are being released from prison, just different ways to engage the brain in a very healthy way. We also back science, development and furtherance of science, but I love seeing those non-invasive, more natural ways to help people heal from tragedy they faced in life. So that's something I'm passionate about.
Wonderful. Well, David, want to thank you again for taking the time to chat with us today. This has been a great conversation.
Likewise, RJ, thank you for having me.